Chifundo. Yeah.
There we go.
So as Winnie said, my name is Jared. I serve as the executive director of the DDI Alliance. I'm also an archivist at ICPSR. We're a data repository at the University of Michigan, based in the US, but we serve our members worldwide. And I'm joined with Dr. Chifundo Kanjala. Chifundo, do you want to introduce yourself too?
Sure. Thank you so much, Gerard, and it's a pleasure to be here to present together with Gerard on the Data Documentation Initiative. As already said by Winnie, I'm a researcher at the University of Cape Town, working at a research data service called Data First, which is dedicated to provide open access to African data. So once again, a pleasure to be here and looking forward to discussing the topic with you. Thank you.
Yeah, and together we'll try to give both a conceptual overview and practical perspective of DDI metadata. So what exactly is DDI? DDI stands for the Data Documentation Initiative. It's a free and open international metadata standard. It's designed to support data sharing, discovery, and reuse. And it's used especially in the social and behavioral sciences, economics, and health, although it's expanding to other areas too. At its core, DDI provides a structured way to describe data and all the information needed to understand and use that data properly. It was originally designed for survey and observational data, but today it's expanding into new domains and data types. Next slide, please. A very recent milestone is that DDI has now been formally recognized as an international ISO standard, ISO/PAS 25955. This is important because it signals international credibility, long-term sustainability, and growing global adoption. For organizations considering standards, ISO recognition often makes a real difference. So we're super excited about this. Next slide, please. So DDI is already widely used by national statistical agencies, universities, data archives, research infrastructures. Examples include Statistics Canada, Harvard, ICPSR, IASSIST in Germany, and Data First in South Africa. So while today's session is an introduction, know you're joining a very mature global ecosystem in the DDI organizations using it. Next slide, please. Today, it's used in more than 80 countries worldwide. This global adoption matters because metadata standards work best when they are shared. They enable cross-country collaboration, and they support interoperability across repositories and research programs. And I'm really happy to, as you see there on the map, it's widely used within Africa. DDI Alliance. So DDI is maintained by the DDI Alliance, an international member organization created in 2003. The Alliance structure includes governance and strategy through the Executive Board, coordination of scientific work through the Scientific Board, the Technical Committee, which maintains and develops standards, and working groups, where much of the innovation happens. This means DDI is community-driven and not owned by a single institution, community and driven across the globe. So we have participants from all over. Next slide, please. If you remember only one resource that I'm talking about today, I'd recommend it be the website. This is the DDI Alliance website. The URL is listed there. This is where you find documentation, training materials, tool listings, community information. It's a great starting point for further learning. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, we're a membership organization. We really depend on our members, both to participate, but also to assist in developing of the standards. Membership provides voting rights, eligibility for leadership roles, participation in working groups, and visibility as a standards contributor. More importantly, you do not need to be a member to use DDI. The standards are open, but of course, we do encourage and welcome people to join the Alliance. Next slide, please. All right, so Today we're going to be talking about the DDI standards family, or the suite. It's not a single specification, but it's a family of standards. So the main ones are DDI Codebook, which documents a single data set, DDI Lifecycle, which allows you to manage metadata across the full research lifecycle, and DDI Cross-Domain Integration, which enables integration across domains and data structures. Each exists because organizations have different needs and levels of complexity. And so it's not like you need to use one or one rules them all. They're different options. And we're going to describe those today. I'm going to cover the DDI Codebook, which is the most widely adopted entry point. And then Chifundo is going to be covering Lifecycle and CDI. So DDI Codebook's the lightweight. It's focused on describing one study or data set. It's widely used in data archives. For many organizations, Codebook is a great place to start. Next slide, please. So Codebook supports creation of machine-readable codebooks and data dictionaries. It mirrors traditional paper codebooks, but in a structured digital form. It's expressed in XML and supported by many tools such as Nestar, Dataverse, and statistical packages. This structured metadata enables better search, better understanding, and better reuse. Next slide, please. Codebook metadata is organized into some 5 main sections. So you have a document description, a study description, data files, variable description, and other related materials. This logical structure helps users navigate complex documentation. Next slide, please. So starting with section 1, this describes the metadata document itself. So for example, the title of the documentation, author, date of creation. This helps track provenance of the documentation, which is often overlooked. Next slide, please. Section 2, the study description. This describes the study, not the data file. It answers questions like, why was the study conducted? Where and when was it conducted? Who funded it? What was the methodology? This contextual information is critical for data interpretation. Next slide, please. Section 3, the data files description. This describes the actual data files produced by the study. Examples for this include number of cases, number of variables, file structure. This helps users quickly understand what they are downloading. Section 4 is the next slide. And this is often the most valuable part of Codebook metadata. It includes the variable information, including question text, variable labels, value categories, population notes, interview instructions. Good variable metadata can dramatically improve data reuse. We see that at my data repository and many others. Next slide. The last section, other materials, here you can link to supporting materials like questionnaires, user guides, additional documentation. Rather than embedding everything in one file, DDI allows structured linking. The next slide, I think, shows examples of just tags within DDI used to represent metadata. The key idea is metadata is not just text, it becomes structured information that machines can interpret. And of course, this enables automated catalogs, data discovery portals, cross-repository search. It pulls out that really key, crucial metadata that's often just embedded in text files or unstructured, other files, PDFs that make it a lot harder to reuse and repurpose and find content. Next slide. And this just shows, I think, an example of a codebook file as it's rendered online. So that was an overview of DDI Codebook. I'm going to pass it over to Chifundo to talk about the next product in the DDI suite or family of products, DDI Lifecycle. Tifundo?
Thank you so much, Jared. So Jared took us through the DDI Codebook, which is one among the three products that we initially referred to. So I'm going to walk us through DDI Lifecycle and DDI Cross-Domain Integration. So with Codebook, you have documentation that we can say works like a manual for a data set that's coming from a survey. With Lifecycle, you are documenting the entire data journey or the entire data lifecycle in ways that can enable the different components of the documentation to be reused. So the codebook that we were looking at just a couple of moments ago documents a single study at a point in time. It's very variable centric. It documents the variables in detail, but then the rest of the study, in a very lightweight way. There isn't any support for things like, the questionnaire flow, for example, and there isn't, a lot of inbuilt support for reuse of metadata across studies. So these are real needs that a lot of organizations, archives, research institutions, and so on would be in need of for sharing their data. So that's the purpose for DDI Lifecycle, and as we shall see later, also across domain integration. So this is very similar to the image that you saw before. On the left, we are starting with metadata that are not structured. Think of metadata sitting in textual documents such as PDFs or Word documents. Human beings can read and maybe put them together, but with a lot of difficulty. When we do the documentation, we then get metadata that are properly structured to enable not only humans but also machines to use. With DDI Lifecycle, we get the different components of your data description in ways that can enable them to be reused. So DDI Lifecycle is designed to document and manage data across the entire data lifecycle, from the time that the data is conceptualized up to the time that it's published, and also beyond that. It encompasses all the DDI codebook specification that we saw earlier, and also extends it. It's based on XML schema, or we can say rule book in XML, that says what the metadata structure would be, and it is also described as modular and extensible. This means that it's organized in components that roughly map to the data lifecycle that we're going to see a bit later, and also additional bits can be added without breaking the initial documentation that would have been done. That's what the extensibility refers to here. So on the left, this is where we ended in the previous slide, where our metadata are organized into these reusable components, such as a collection of questions, for example, coding schemes, concepts, and so on. Those structures or components that have been properly documented for your data can then be reused or be reorganized in different ways. Take questions. If you document using Lifecycle, a questionnaire, for example, the different items within the questionnaire, the questions, the logic flow, the response domains, and so on, are not just attached within that questionnaire, but they can be reused, maybe in a different study, or a later wave of that study. So that's what this is pointing to here, the reuse of various metadata components. So just here, pointing to the purposes of the different standards. On the left, what DDI Codebook can achieve for you: documentation of studies, building a data repository, cataloging of those data, variable lists, and use of those data documented for data analysis. Beyond that, on the right, the data lifecycle, can support data harmonization and comparison, design of questionnaires, and manage data processes and workflows. This is the data lifecycle through which the different components can be documented in a structured way using data lifecycle. So instead of thinking of data as a file that you end up with at the end of your data collection, we are thinking of the entire process, documenting the entire journey that the data goes through, from the conceptualization, the collection of those data, the processing, the archiving of those data, and the different steps within the data lifecycle. Here again, just to show how DDI Lifecycle documents data collection instruments, not just what was asked in terms of what question was asked, but also the full logic of it. So what was the question item, the control constructs in terms of skip patterns, how the questionnaire flows, how the instrument flows from one item to another, and then the entire instrument as well, saying, okay, this is the way the different questions were assembled. It points to a top level sequence of the control constructs, and then also your response domains. One thing to emphasize here is that because questions are separate from the logic, the flow logic of those questions, you can reuse the same questions in different instruments, different surveys, and different countries even. Oops, sorry. This is actually, an actual example. The question item at the left there, going to the right, we have the response options. So the question, what is the main source of drinking water for your household? So that's documented separately, and it can be identified and be reused. And then same goes with the response domains, the flow of the questions, and the instrument that's capturing the questions. So each piece is stored independently. The same question and code can be reused. There's another example showing data processing, very detailed description of data processing. So DDI Lifecycle treats metadata as building blocks. So you define once and you use many times. So take the question, for example, what is the main source of drinking water? So you define it once, and it is then referenced by, let's say there's a study, a 2024 WASH survey study, and there's a follow-up in 2025. That same question can be referenced in the regional comparison. If there's a regional comparison study, can then point again to the same question. So you're defining things once, you're documenting things once, and then reusing them. Same goes with a code list or concepts. They can be used across studies. So this approach saves enormous amount of time and resources, but it also ensures consistency across surveys and different waves of a study. Okay, I will now go on to the DDI Cross-Domain Integration, which seeks to connect data across sources, systems, standards, and domains. So DDI Codebook and Lifecycle were designed with, predominantly with survey data in mind. But today, research data come from very diverse sources. Administrative data are used quite a bit in research. Sensor and Internet of Things data, with the advent of big data and artificial intelligence, we're seeing a lot of these data sources. Again, in health research and genomic data, geospatial data, and data from sources such as social media. Those are very diverse sources of data, which are not inherently catered for sufficiently in standards such as a codebook, in versions of the standards such as codebook and lifecycle. DDI cross-domain integration takes care of those diverse sources of data. So DDI CDI was created to address working across any domain with any data structure. This is quite important given the challenges that we are tackling, in our times, around epidemics, terrorism and other things that require cross-domain, cross-border collaboration. So having a standard that kind of takes care of the different data sources coming from different domains is quite important. This is one aspect showing the importance or the role of DDI cross-domain integration. On the left, you see where we ended with DDI Lifecycle, different components of our data lifecycle product described in an organized way and structured way. But then taking that and presenting it in different representations. We mentioned XML quite a bit for DDI Codebook and Lifecycle, but DDI cross-domain integration is model based. So it's a model. It uses model first architecture in the sense that it's defined. The different components and their relationships are defined using a model, a UML model. And then from there, the different representations can be rendered. So it might be XML, RDF, and so on. So these are the four core characteristics of DDI cross-domain integration. It's model-driven, so it's built using the UML, Unified Modeling Language, and then you can create the different representations from there. So you can put into XML, RDF, and JSON, and other representations. So it's not really logged to XML in the way that our codebook and for now DDI Lifecycle is. It's domain neutral. Again, we said that Lifecycle and Codebook are more on the social science or the domains that predominantly use survey type of data, data generated from questionnaires. But cross-domain integration is kind of wider than that. So it works with data coming from genomics, for example, geospatial data, and also the other domains. It's datum oriented in the sense that it describes data at the level of individual data points. So each datum carries its own provenance and context. So this is much more granular than study level or variable level. So Lifecycle and Codebook are predominantly variable level, but then DDI cross-domain goes into the details of the actual datum data points within our data. And then it also captures the provenance. So it is a built-in process for description, built-in process description capability. So describing the process through which data has gone. This is very important in the cases of where there's a harmonized data set. It tells you the full history as much as possible in terms of, okay, the data that you're seeing in a harmonized data product, how was this harmonized data product created? So it tracks exactly how each data point was created, transformed, or derived. This is essential for reproducibility and trust. You want to trust the data that you're using, so having its history or provenance is important. this is the other side. We showed how you can how it's based on a model and then rendered into different representations. This is the other side of it. It handles different new data structures and data from different domains. So again, on the left, starting with the the metadata organized in these neat compartments where data lifecycle leaves us. DDI Cross-Domain then gives it capability to be presented, according to the different new data structures that we looked at earlier. These are the 4 data structures that DDI Cross-Domain handles. So Lifecycle and Codebook are more or less, they handle very well the wide data structure, the traditional rectangular data structure that we are familiar with our variables as columns and our observations as rows. Cross-domain integration handles long data format where we have several rows representing the same object or entity. So it handles a description of such data. Also cube structured data, think of aggregated tables or composite tables showing different aspects, and then also key value pairs, flexible NoSQL style data with dynamic schemas, things that such as social media data. So it has capability to describe these data structures. I'm glad that there are a couple of colleagues who are very familiar with DDI here, so maybe they will weigh in during discussion, but this is an analogy that I would like to use to kind of help us, process the different kinds of capabilities that we have across the family of DDI standards. So we can loosely think of DDI Codebook as a manual for one book. So you have one book, and then you have this documentation that's giving you the details in terms of what that book is. So it describes data. It describes what data looks like after it has been collected. It so kind of describes your data file or your data set that you're looking at. DDI Lifecycle, if we're using the same analogy, so it gives you a full production story of the book. So it documents how the data were conceived, were conceptualized, what concepts were people aiming to collect, and how the data were collected, processed, and archived, even how they were analyzed or repurposed. If we continue with that analogy, DDI cross-domain integration would be like a library system that connects the different books. So it links data across domains, structures, and sources, also including their provenance. So this kind of gives a way to think about the different products within the suite of standards. I just want to use this slide to just highlight some of the work we are doing in Malawi, where some of these standards are being applied. So I'm collaborating with colleagues in the Ministry of Health in Malawi, and also the core data team, where we are integrating or bringing together data on cholera in Malawi from various sources. So with the aim of supporting, cholera response efforts or prevention efforts by the government in Malawi. So the challenge that we're trying to address in this work is that cholera outbreak data in Malawi, and I imagine in many other countries, is scattered across various sources, case line lists, mortality studies, behavioral studies, the sort of national surveys, flood models, or water, sanitation and hygiene assessments. So each of these data sources covers different times, places, and topics. There is no single source that tells the whole story. How we are using DDI Cross-Domain Integration, in that case, we're using it as a metadata bridge, which brings together data from across these sources and tracks where every estimate, where every data is coming from, and links individual cases to district statistics. So we are combining DDI Codebook, so documenting each of those sources in DDI Codebook, and documenting indicators or statistics using the STMX standard, and then bringing all that together, through a data integration layer using DDI CDI. What we are aiming to end up with are local level correlate risk estimates at sub-district level, leveraging the metadata that we get from the different studies, and then running some models that can help us to get what are called small area estimation techniques. So in this case, we're using the standard to document various sources, and then using the resulting metadata to support the estimation of risk estimates. So DDI CDI's provenance tracking means every estimate can be tracked back to its source of data, thus building trust with the decision makers. Which DDI standard do I need? So these are some of the questions that you can ask in order to make a decision around which standard to use. What are you doing with your data? What are the origins of your data? How mature is your metadata practice? And do you have the resources for technical development? So these are very key questions, and you can look at them further because we're going to share these slides. So this is the way in which the different standards relate. We have looked at this before. These are complementary standards. They are not competing. So you choose based on your use case, or combine them like the case that I've just shown, that I just outlined for Malawi. So DDI can be adopted gradually. You start where you are and you build from there. So there's this classification here, just just illustrative. So it's not like really a DDI official rating or anything, but just kind of helping us to see where we can start and progress with this. So maybe individual or small project, you could use Codebook, and then proceed as it shows there in the different slides. How to use DDI? So there are these two broad approaches. You could use existing tools, or you could develop tools in-house, but this has cost implications either way. If you're using existing tools, depending on your resources, there are some open source tools and commercial tools. So again, your use case can help you to see where you stand with this. If capacity permits, you could, and you find that the existing tools have limitations that are severe for your use case, you can develop your own in-house tools. So I imagine most of our participants on this call, perhaps a good point to start, if you are not already using DDI, might be to explore the open source tools and then gradually see what they can do for you. And if needed, explore the commercial tools or the developing in-house. This is the existing tools as of 2021. So the landscape has changed quite a bit. Some of the tools have been discontinued, but if you go to DDI resources, you can see some of the tools that are currently available. One of the widely used tools is Nesta Publisher. It has been discontinued now, but you're still able to download it and use it, and it provides DDI Codebook. But yeah, do go to DDI Alliance Resources Tools to see the current state of affairs. So these are some of the key takeaways from our presentation today. The modern world demands more data and better data. So meeting that challenge requires complete standard-based metadata, and DDI provides a proven, flexible toolkit. And here is some guidance in terms of starting slow and then growing. Some resources at the bottom there, mainly from the DDI.org, the tools, and also a lot of training materials. Thank you. We'll end here, and maybe we can open for questions. Thank you.
If anyone has questions,
thank you so much.
Questions or comments or any reflections, colleagues?
Thank you so much, Dr. Chifundo and Gerard, for your very insightful presentation. I'm glad to know that DDI is actually in Africa, and Malawi is already implementing, which is something good. My question is, if, for example, in Uganda or any other institution in any country in Africa wants to adopt these standards, what kind of support can be provided? And also, I know you mentioned towards the end of your presentation about sources. I don't know that you made financial sources in case you want to adopt the tools, the in-house, if you want to develop your in-house tools, and also exploring the open source tools. When you talked about the in-house, developing in-house tools, which kind of resources were you referring to? I'm really interested to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, go ahead, Chifundo.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You can come in, Jared, in case I leave out some important information. Yeah. So thank you very much for the questions, Winnie. And just to emphasize that it's not only in Malawi. I just highlighted that particular use case because of the work we are doing with DDI CDI, but there is a fairly wide adoption of DDI in the continent, mainly DDI Codebook. There's a suite of tools that the World Bank has put together that are based on DDI. If you go to the IHSN website, I'm just putting it in the chat now, International Household Survey Network. They have a lot of tools that are available there that can help to start using DDI. They are all open source, so colleagues can easily access and use those tools. Again, also here at DataFest, we do use the DDI-based tools for the data services that we run. I also know in the area of population health research, where I worked I worked for a couple of years, and I'm still in collaboration with colleagues there. There is also a fairly wide use of DDI. I will touch a little bit on what resources would be required to develop your own in-house solution, and then others can come, Jared and others can come in. So yeah, I think my general advice would be, do start with available open source tools and see how far they can take you, because you can make quite a bit of progress before you start to think of developing your own tools in-house. If you see that your use case requires in-house, bespoke tools, then yeah, the financial resources would be part of what would be required, and also the software development capacity. So if the capacity within your institution, you have software developers who can look at the standard and develop tools, then yeah, by all means, you can have in-house tools. So yeah, that's what I can say. Over to you, Jared and others.
Yeah, thanks, Chifundo. That's a great question, Winnie. So I would emphasize those open source or those freely available tools that are out there. So Chifundo highlighted the World Bank provided tools. So in the past, they used the Nestar Publisher, although Chifundo mentioned that that's been discontinued and further development. I'm aware of the World Bank has built a new metadata editor. I'm just pasting in the link there. And then they also make use of a freely available data catalog called NADA. And I'm pasting it in here. And those are some really great freely available tools to start with for DDI Codebook. Of course, there are other tools for DDI Lifecycle that are available, and DDI CDI is so new, they're developing tools for that. I think the other thing to emphasize, in addition to making use of these ready-to-use tools, is the community. And I think this gets at Winnie's question about support. The DDI Alliance is foremost a community of users around the world. And so we have mailing lists, we have user conferences. Chifundo's been to those, some of those, and we really benefit from our users working with and communicating with each other. We also have working groups that are dedicated to both specific products that we develop, but also to how we're implementing DDI. So by products, we mean like DDI Codebook and DDI Lifecycle and other things that are around the domain or around the specification. Some other working groups are more on how we're making use of DDI. So for instance, there's a working group that's been developed for statistical agencies to help support and drive adoption there. There's another working group that is around marketing and training. There's just the last example, one for metadata publication and access. So how do we encourage the visible use of our standards and share our metadata? I could paste in the link in the chat to those working groups. So just emphasizing not only the tools, which are great and certainly start there, but also the community of both conferences and meetings, as well as the working groups that are developing and adopting. Jennifer's another great example. Jennifer helped organize this meeting. She's part of the training working group. She works at ICPSR with me. ICPSR is a very established data repository. We've been around for more than 60 years, but we're still learning and love to learn from the community. And for instance, what Chifundo had to say about implementing DDI CDI, I'd love to learn more. That's an example where we can learn from the work that Chifundo and his colleagues are doing there in Africa. So I hope that gets at your question, Winnie.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Great. We're happy to also take other questions. I think we have a few more minutes.
Yeah.
And just to note, as Jennifer said, we'll send the slides and the recording to the participants and post them. And we can link to the tools that we posted in the chat. Kevin.
Yes, thank you. So my question is more specific on the tool. Okay, the initiative is interesting. Yeah, it's a very good one. But what I would like to inquire or ask about is, are there any future integrations of seeing how DDI can be achieved in other library systems? Technically, there are a couple of library systems and metadata quality there is affected, or maybe repositories as well. Is there any way or anything that is being worked on unless this kind of metadata management into, say, like DSpace, OHA, and all those other systems?
So some of that cut in and out. Chifundo, did you hear the question?
Kevin, was your question, just to be sure, was your question around how DDI can be, whether there are any plans to bring it to tools such as DSpace and other tools that are used for metadata development in the library domain? Was that your question, Kevin?
Yes, it's close to that because I have a feeling with the research data management in Uganda, particularly, we are having institutions that are taking up institutional repositories. And my question now comes from there. Is there any way that DDI is looking into liaising or collaborating with initiatives like DSpace for science or even COHA, and also other metadata systems that are actually all library systems enable that metadata feature and everything. But the DDI, how is it having any plans to integrate that into it, or also with a tool like indexing tools like OpenAlex, it is also open source. So is DDI achieve that kind of integration, or what would you advise a library? Maybe work on such, since they are all open source, collaborate to see that they harness this into all library systems possibly. Thank you.
Did you get it, Jared?
It was cutting in and out for me, but it sounds like it was. And thanks, Kevin, for raising this. So it sounds like it's a question: how do we collaborate with like DSpace or other library tools?
Yeah.
So one thing for us, we're a metadata standard and not necessarily a repository system. And so thanks, Kevin. Yeah, Kevin said, yes, that's the question. One thing that we try to do for instance, at ICPSR, we describe our data using a baseline version of DDI Codebook. And what that allows us to do then is to map to the metadata fields used by the library systems, whether that's DSpace or others. And so we're able to share metadata with those systems. We're able to collect very rich metadata, but still share metadata with libraries so that they can index our content. That's one example of collaborating or interoperating with library systems that might use a specific software or flavor. Chifundo, are you familiar with other ways that you've been working with library systems?
My use cases have mainly been, working with data sets within research context and to some extent with national statistical offices, but not that interface with library systems. Yeah.
Another thing we've looked at and haven't done it I haven't been involved widely, Kevin, is the DDI Codebook allows you to document the overall study. So that's kind of like a catalog record in DSpace or a repository system. But in addition to that, we're documenting the variable details. And so one thought is, and we've tried this a few times with libraries, is indexing that variable information and putting that into DSpace so that when it's doing a search of the studies, it's not just searching across that high-level catalog, kind of like the table of contents of a book, but it's able to index the full details of the study. Yeah, and then Kevin asks, are there also ways on how DDI can work with discovery tools like ViewFind? And also, does DDI products support OAA PMH protocol? So I'm not familiar with ViewFind, and I'd have to look at that, but certainly DDI as a metadata standard allows you to convert or talk or interoperate with other metadata standards that these products often support. So it allows you to converse and share that information about studies. And certainly DDI is supported in OAA PMH, so many of our members do export and share their metadata using OAA PMH protocol or endpoints. And I can try and find examples of that. Actually, that working group that I referenced was all about looking at how people are sharing and exporting their metadata. I'll paste it into the chat. Yeah, thanks for asking that, Kevin. Chifundo, did you have anything to add to that?
I just wanted to point out that Dublin Core is, the fields in Dublin Core are captured in the various DDI standards. So I guess a lot of colleagues from library sciences are familiar with Dublin Core, and perhaps that's where the interface currently is. Yeah, that's what I wanted to point out.
All right. Well, it looks like we're at the end of the hour, and so probably want to wrap it up here. But thanks so much for hosting us and allowing us to share about DDI as a community, as well as the DDI products. And I enjoyed seeing many of you and talking with you during this hour. Thanks so much to Winnie for organizing, as well as Jennifer, and of course to Dr. Kanjala Chifundo for co-presenting. Chifundo, did you want to say anything more?
Thanks, Jared. Nothing else, just to say thank you, colleagues. It was wonderful to be here together. Looking forward to seeing loads of you at the coming IASSIST workshop at the end of the year. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're happy also if you had any additional questions or follow-ups or just want to email. I think the emails will be in the slides, so feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, colleagues. Bye for now.